All right, folks, I got a last-second road trip opportunity to see Fantastic Four on my birthday. What a truly special gift. By the way, I have no clue where I'm at right now. Frankly, I'm a little scared, but I am super excited. Maybe my expectations need to be held in check. Marvel's First Family is one of my favorite characters, teams, whatever you want to call it, ever. And so, oh, the GPS is talking. There's a lot going on right now. Maybe I need to keep my expectations in check, but I'm ready to see Galactus flatten some people. And will Marvel be taking their first step to something truly special? I thought of that all by myself. Boo!
Wow, folks, we all know the story. 4 brave astronauts head off into space.
All right, folks, I've had some time to reflect. First of all, it's late. I'm alone in my car in the dark, so if I honk the horn, save me. Second, I drove a long way to see this movie, so we're not making it back to the studio. This is all you get. Me in my car. A boy who just took his first steps. You saw my reaction on the channel. I've had some time to reflect. I needed the drive to really think about this movie because, and I talked about this with Film Stalked. Got to meet he and his fiance tonight, 2 wonderful people, but we were talking about, you know, as many nitpicks as you could have with the story itself and as many different directions as this movie goes, constantly throwing things at you. And I don't want to start with the negative, but the pacing here is one of the more upbeat, in-your-face, almost relentless Marvel movies I've ever watched. You really don't get time to breathe. And oftentimes, that's a positive thing. I wouldn't say it's a positive for this film, and that's almost a reflection on how much I love these characters. I just wanted to spend more time with them. I needed to see them sit down and eat dinner a couple of times together before we moved into this magnificent, grand, intergalactic threat that was Galactus. Now, don't get me wrong. Galactus is as epic as you are anticipating from a scale standpoint, just pure intimidation factor. As a longtime Fantastic Four fan, again, I grew up reading those comics. My favorite comic characters, maybe ever. I mean, even the early 2000s Fantastic Four movies, I was such a big fan of. But they got Galactus so wrong. In that sequel, it was bad. We called him a poop cloud. We don't want a Galactus poop cloud. This is Galactus. And this is the version that I've always wanted to see on screen. That being said, I did feel a bit shortchanged by his role inevitably, not necessarily the looming threat, the ticking time bomb that is the ramp up of this movie, because you have a wonderful beginning that we will talk about, but ultimately this becomes a race against the clock. Galactus is coming, we have to band together, but this isn't a world with a bunch of characters, the Avengers, X-Men, Spider-Man crawling up a wall somewhere. No, it's the Fantastic Four. And that's about it. That's about all we hear about. This is its own world, separated, removed from the rest of the MCU. And, you know, I'm a guy that loves to see connections. I believe we get so many comic book nods that it almost takes the place. All of those interconnecting webs that we love to see. But this film, it doesn't need that. It doesn't depend on the rest of the MCU to thrive. It really does worry about its characters. But that impending threat of Galactus is what continues to ramp this movie up almost to that relentless degree that I feel like some people will find grating. Ultimately, I promise we're going to get positive. I wanted to start with the negative. For the most part, I love the visual effects in this film. A couple of CGI elements that didn't quite work for me. The baby. There are a few times where the baby is so obviously CGI, especially up against the Thing, when the Thing is holding it. I understand this is such a minor criticism, but it did bug me at points. And then you have a couple of those over-the-shoulder shots where somebody's mouth is moving, but the words are not matching the mouth movements. That happened a couple of times, specifically with Johnny. And I don't know why his character took the brunt of all of those issues, but I noticed it. Not everyone's going to notice it or care, but it really bugged me. Here's why it bugged me. Because the rest of the film is so beautifully and meticulously made, and the only reason I'm shouting that out is because we've not been saying that a lot as of late about the MCU. I thoroughly enjoyed Thunderbolts, but prior to that, your Captain Americas of the world, your Marvels of the world, movies that come and go, they feel like they are on a conveyor belt of sorts in terms of style and overall production design. I have not felt this way watching Fantastic Four First Steps about an MCU movie since, it's been a while. This is the epitome, the epitome of style. And I love the way they approach this retro-futuristic, the Jetsons mixed with Star Trek in the way that they travel intergalactically, and I guess we'll discuss that here in a second. But all of that vibe that you're looking for, that you got in a film like The Incredibles. Well, Austin, aren't they just copying The Incredibles? To be honest, The Incredibles kind of took that from Fantastic Four. That has always been the core of the Fantastic Four, this retro-futuristic world that I wanted to see on screen. Now, we've not gotten that from any of the other versions. And if you're not a comic book fan, you didn't really know that was the case. Well, it's fully on display in this film. And I believe Matt, our director from WandaVision fame, I knew he would kind of bring that. I just didn't know to what degree. And I'm not just talking about the production design, the buildings, the city itself. I'm talking the editing style, the transitions, the graphics, the beginning montage, the opening sequence, a couple of scenes. We're introducing the Fantastic Four, and then we get to see a little bit of what makes them them. What makes the Fantastic Four the heroes of this Earth. Now, that may sound like a simple thing. Well, of course, Austin, they're going to introduce us to this team and give us a handful of scenes that showcase them being the heroes that we know and love. Yeah, you think that's a simple thing to do. But recently, MCU films haven't been smart enough to go about handling their characters in this way. Why not show us an epic montage of the Fantastic Four being the Fantastic Four with that amazing score that I'll get into here in just a second. But my God, man, this is my personal... Now, I've got to go back and maybe think a bit harder on this, but as of now, this is my favorite opening sequence for an MCU movie. We're talking 30-something movies ever. It is the best because you are immediately thrown into this world, getting a chance to learn about these characters in a montage that tells you what their origin is, because most of us know, and for those of you that don't know, you get a chance to learn, and then you get thrown right into what this movie is. They have been a family, a team for quite some time now, and that opening sequence not only puts that on full display with comic references, villainous names, entities that you will recognize, a few CGI characters that, you may scoff at first, but if you know who some of these villains are, and they get deep, I'm talking numerous deep cuts. We know Mole Man's in this. We've seen images, and we've seen him in the trailer. The casting confirmed. Paul Walter Hauser, who actually has a bit of a bigger role than maybe I anticipated, not just that opening sequence. By the way, perfect casting and a great sense of humor as well. But seeing all of this play out over this first 10 to 15 minutes, I'm thinking we may be in for something truly special. And at that point, I was thinking this could be one of the best comic book movies of the decade. Let's talk about the performances. Vanessa Kirby, she is so good, man. I loved her chemistry with Pedro Pascal. Sue and Reed really are the heart and soul of this film. And I love Ben, and I love Human Torch. Both of those performances as good as I expected. I believe all four. This is some of the best casting, on-screen casting in terms of a team. You can tell the chemistry is there. But Sue and Reed, they are everything with this film, because it's not only their relationship, their dynamic, the fact that she calls him on his crap, the fact that he knows he is the smartest person in the room and acknowledges that multiple times. But there are points in this film where being the smartest person sometimes means you have to put that negative, prominent thought on display that could inevitably be the way we save everyone, even if it's not the thing we even want to think about. And that's a different side of Reed Richards, and I believe Pascal truly captures that. And that was probably the casting I questioned most. He's the biggest name. I mean, Vanessa Kirby's huge, but the biggest face, the biggest name. Can he sink into this role? And I believe he does. And even his powers are on display, especially in that third act when they're all kind of doing the thing they have to do. As an audience, we can see that coming. We don't know exactly how it's going to pan out, but we're excited to see all of their skill sets on display. The Thing is great. Didn't have as much things, see what I did there, to do as maybe we've seen from other versions, but very good. I love the look of Human Torch. It's spectacular from a VFX standpoint. Silver Surfer is awesome as well. I know some people are questioning her and her look, and is it going to look good? Is it good? She fits perfectly. Now, there are things about certain side characters. Her eventually, I think she's well handled throughout most of the movie. Maybe by the end, I needed a little more, but also some really minor characters. Little bit of a love interest with the Thing. I'm not going to go into detail there, but they kind of just forget about that. And some things that they set up along the way that they never really go back to. That being said, when Galactus is coming, you know, we got bigger things to worry about.
I gotta get out of here! Too late!
But like I said in my reaction, my wife's pregnant again. We've got another daughter on the way, and that's a big theme, a big plot point in this movie. Sue and Reed's child, what that means, how it will come, but also, is there something more at play? I mean, they've all got powers. Is this child going to have powers? There is an epic sequence in the middle of this movie involving that child. And in the midst of this almost 20-minute interstellar-like series of scenes to where they leave Earth and you get intergalactic in a very sci-fi Star Trek kind of way. I'm like, I didn't know this movie was going here. And it is kind of what the Fantastic Four, that's what they do, not only on Earth, but they go out into space and then the negative zone and all of these places that we're finally exploring in this movie. That was so cool to see as a comic book fan. And I get it, some people are going to be like, well, you know, it couldn't pick a lane. And there's an earnestness to the first half of this film that's almost missing because they try to ramp up and amp up the stakes with Galactus. I get that. I'm not going to say it's a two-faced movie, but it was struggling with what it truly wanted to focus on. That being said, finally getting to see Galactus on full display, even though, again, maybe I wanted a tad more from him at the end of the day, that was so cool. And I was so happy with the dosage that we got of him. And talk about a looming threat. Absolutely felt that. I think the biggest praise I can give this movie is I walked out with a massive smile on my face, and I felt that way. I felt the guy next to me probably like, what's wrong with this dude? Because I'm over here going, I'm just thinking, as a longtime fan, that's what I've always wanted to see. And maybe I didn't know I wanted to see that, but that was it. This is Marvel's first family, and they finally got it right. With the nods and the Easter eggs and the comic references and just all of those little tidbits that movie critic Austin doesn't care about, but comic lover Austin does. Now, movie critic Austin enjoys the style and the production design. And, of course, let's end it here. Michael Giacchino's score, my God. This is maybe the most epic, and you're waiting for it because we've heard it 1,000 times in that trailer. It is the most epic theme. And not only, oh yeah, it sounds amazing. Of course it sounds amazing. We've heard it so many times. But within the confines of this film, the context of the movie, every time they play it, it's in the midst of an integral sequence that really does put its full force on display. Not just their theme. When Silver Surfer's on screen, when Galactus is on screen, he has a theme, and let me tell you folks, it is menacing. We're talking Empire, just Star Wars vibes, like level of, oh no, oh no. How are we going to beat this guy?
It's over. We are screwed.
So my biggest praise here, pure, uncontrollable, at times childish levels of joy and a massive smile on my face. My biggest criticism is probably just the fact that they're throwing so many things at us with such a fast-paced movie. And I'm not going to say it's overly complicated or convoluted. It's very easy to follow, which I love. I do feel as if it needed to focus a bit more on some of those more quiet and slower paced moments. I mean, it's a less than 2-hour movie with both post-credit scenes, and so it's one of Marvel's shorter films. The first post-credit scene, you don't want to miss. Trust me, you don't want to miss. The second one, it's cute, but if you've really got to go to the bathroom, Just go to the bathroom, man.
2 hours is long enough!
So before I go formulate my final score, I need your thoughts down below. And what Fantastic Four videos do you want to see from me this week? Should we rank the movies, the actors, the heroes, villains, or maybe just rank the entire MCU? I mean, that would be fun. And of course, if you enjoy this review, dropping a like would be awesome. Fantastic Four is a family-first spectacle with massive stakes, perfect casting, and a retro-futuristic vibe that allows this movie to breathe on its own. It absolutely nails the tone, feels so stylistic, dishing out comic references left and right. It does feel rushed, a few CGI issues in there, but the biggest highlight is absolutely Michael Giacchino's score. This theme is already iconic, but feels even more impactful within context. Thanks again for watching, hanging out with me on my birthday. Mind you, I got to see this on my birthday, and now I'm in my car in the darkness somewhere in southern Tennessee. I'm actually at my friend's house, so I'll be back in the studio at some point, but right now, I think I'm just gonna sleep here tonight. Good night, everyone. Let's turn the lights off. Beautiful. All right. Sleepy time.
Say that again?